Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
Hey there, everybody. We are back with another episode, and as always, I'm joined here with Tim and Tom. Guys, how is it going?
I'm doing great. Tim is not here, but he's on the phone. I'm glad I don't have to look at him all day.
I'm here on the phone. My apologies for not being present. Unfortunately, my daughter took a spill. Face is looking a little messed up right now, looking like she has been dating Dee Westbrook. But she is okay. Everyone is well, so I appreciate you guys accommodating me by letting me do the show over the phone here tonight.
Oh, of course, Tim. Anything for you, right?
If not me, for my kids.
All right, we got some stuff to talk about this week. A lot of good stuff. I want to first start off with the news of the Monday night game for this week that was possibly going to be moved or relocated, and now the news has come out. Of course, this is the Rams and Chiefs game that we're talking about. This was supposed to be played in Mexico, and the news now is that they have changed locations from Mexico back to LA. What are your guys' thoughts on this whole situation? Do you think that it should have even come to this?
Tom, I'm going to start.
Okay.
I'm going to start by saying I've been vocal about it in the past. It's not just London games that I hate. Stop leaving the country. It doesn't do anything. The fact that the Chiefs and the Rams, two of the best teams in the NFL, in a game that had the highest over-under, I think, in like 30 years or 40 years, something crazy like that, was going to have to be played in Mexico City is absolutely outrageous. So that in itself is just makes no sense to me. It's stupid. I get you want to be bigger around the world, but just stop. Props to the NFL for actually doing the right thing for a change. I didn't think they would actually do it. I think the fact that the teams finally threatened and said, hey, we're going to keep our stars out of this if you don't change it. It was atrocious. It's about time the NFL does things right.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway of this is how is the NFL not paying attention to this? I know there hasn't been any athletic activity at that field in quite some time. They had a Shakira concert. I believe it was in the middle of October, and the field is still trashed from that. Obviously, the NFL kind of checked in this week, like Monday, Tuesday. Hey,
how's that field doing?
Yeah, how's the field looking, guys? And they're like, holy crap. It's a complete disaster. The NFL kind of looks foolish once again, and whoever's in charge of taking care of that field kind of looks like a moron. They blew a big opportunity. I get what the NFL is doing. They made this game before the season started. No one knew the Chiefs would be where they're at right now. A lot of people thought the Rams would be this good, but no one really thought both of these offenses would be on this level, and this would be such a big-time game. And it's kind of a shame for pretty much everyone involved. There's a lot of new fans that could have witnessed very good football, probably the best football that the NFL can offer right now, and they're missing out. And I feel bad for the people that spent a lot of money to go to Mexico City for this game. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter
they're
pretty
probably
pissed
not
off.
happy. They're not happy with this.
They're not getting their money back.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
So also too, you got to take into account that there is a lot of factors into this move going back to LA, correct? So the game is supposed to be played in Mexico, and now you're going back to LA. So with that being said, now you got to call all these people that thought they had the week off. Hey, I need you to come in and do the concessions. Hey, I need you to do this to do security. Hey, I need you to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Also, ESPN did not want to lose out on this. I believe ESPN's got the rights for this Monday night game, and this is a big money maker for them. This is going to bring a lot of eyes for this game because this is two of the highest, most offensive firepower teams that there are in the NFL right now between the Chiefs and the Rams. And they've been out there all week laying wires, laying everything for the show, everything like that. And now they should have made this decision a week or two ago, weeks ago, if the field was that bad. There's no way you can sit there today when they made their decision and said, hey, you know what, in 6 days, maybe this grass will be okay. I don't know.
No, what it comes down to is this was the biggest international game that the NFL had the opportunity to have. That's
Agreed.
what it comes down to. And honestly, I think they were so absorbed with this is the biggest thing, oh my gosh, we're finally going to have a big international game on a national stage in a country that's able to, it's just crazy.
Tell that child to settle down.
We lose Tim.
I just don't understand how the NFL allows this to happen. Like, I just don't, I think they weren't, like you said, Josh, they weren't paying attention to this field. I think what happened was they would call in maybe like 2-3 weeks ago to like check on it, and they got like the maid from Family Guy, and they were like, hey, how's the field going? Is it all right? Is it, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay.
Oh, that is one way to put it, I guess. I don't know. Other than that, I don't know exactly what they were thinking. And is the right move going back to LA?
It's really the only other move, unless you change the team's bye weeks, gave them this week off, let them play.
And then you would have
next week
two Monday night games next week.
Yeah. What also kind of sucks for the Rams, I believe they already made it to Colorado Springs. They were doing their whole practice, trying to get used to the altitude in Colorado, and now do they go back early? So this is pretty much an away game for them. I haven't seen if they are staying in Colorado Springs.
I haven't seen it either.
Or if they're just uprooting everything, losing a day of practice, whatever, and going back to LA. But either way, it's kind of a black eye in the NFL in general, in my eyes.
The craziest part about the season more is with all of the wildfires in California that are going on. It said something like upwards of 90-plus people that are either a part of one of these two teams or a part of their organization, like, were just uprooted. I don't know, like last Thursday night is when it started, I think, and it came out that like they were literally middle of the night, knocking on your doors, get out, we're not allowed to take anything with them. You know, in terms of that, as a human, it doesn't matter if they're NFL people, but it's still, that's where they're kind of, just a normal person. They don't have an opportunity to save their valuables, save pictures, save anything like that. They're so worried about their home being torn down. Now they were probably flown out to Mexico City, flown out there, now being flown back, still staying in a hotel, just a terrible, terrible, terrible situation for the NFL and just everyone all together.
So I want to ask you guys, and you kind of touched on it already, Tim, international games. Should they be doing international games? And I kind of want to make sure that we all do realize that the Jaguars owner, right, Khan, I believe his name is, he was going to buy the stadium in London and possibly move the team there, and he backed out of it and said, no thank you, I don't want to do that. Do you think they should have international games?
For me, it's a good idea. I get where the NFL is going. They're trying to increase their market, trying to make their all the franchises more valuable, and to do that, you try to hit a new market. And they're pretty much tapped out for the American market, so they're trying to hit Mexico now, trying to hit over in Europe and in England. And personally, I don't like it. There's some Sundays where I'm kind of pumped that there's a game on at 9:30, but normally the on-the-field product is pretty bad. The stadium's pretty bad. The turf's pretty bad. It's not what the players are used to playing on. Normally, you can tell it's just not right. And that's what kind of sucks. It's hurting what the players are able to do on the field, and that's what makes most fans happy. I wish there weren't the international games, personally.
I would agree. Tim?
Let's call it like it is, guys. These international games suck. Nobody likes them. American fans don't like them. NFL players don't like them. Teams as a whole do not like them, except unless you're a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why are they done? Because every year, little by little by little, you're seeing more and more profit come out of these games. More and more fans attend these games. They're on an upward an upward staircase to more money, and that's all the NFL actually cares about. Where at the end of the day, it's just you're not getting the best product. No one likes it. They're talking about potentially bringing a team there one day. Are you kidding me? You're gonna have where are these players gonna stay? How do the taxes end up affecting those players? No player is gonna actually want to go there for a big bid. You're gonna have 8 games there constantly. The only way that works is if you're having 2, 3, 4 games, 3, 4, 5 games in a row, overseas like that, so players can actually get settled. It's just such a big disadvantage for all the players who have to go. I absolutely hate it. I get that we need, I equate football, American football, to how soccer is overseas, where we love it, and some of them over there get it, and that's fine. But it's the same way with football, how it is all over the world over there. There's some people here in America who get it, who like it, but it's not the same. Don't try to enforce it and force feed it down people's throats. You're only hurting your own product. You're only hurting your own players. Stop.
You know what I would do if I was the NFL? Remake NFL Europe, right? Honestly, if you're gonna try to get the international games, and you're gonna try to get the games overseas, and you want that NFL name attached to it, why not just restart it, do an 8-team league, and then also you think about some of these players that aren't even on NFL teams, they could go overseas just like some of these NBA players do and go overseas and play in China and stuff like that, and you have the NFL name attached to it.
Well, Josh, honestly, it's because people don't like the sport. NBA, whatever, these other countries in Europe and stuff love the sport of basketball. Problem is, everywhere else in the world, no one cares about the sport of football. They think it's dumb, they think it's boring, and without the stars, then there's really no point. That's the reason why that's never going to happen. They're never going to do it. They need to bring the stars over there. They need to bring the big franchises over there randomly to at least give them all a taste. And every time you hear, when they go there, when it's at Wembley or wherever it is, it's just a cornucopia of NFL jerseys throughout the stadiums because it's like a hot topic thing. Oh yeah, I was at the game.
You have to think of this though. Like the Jaguars they don't have any big name star players. They have Leonard Fournette, but still he's still a newer player.
Have you heard of Blake Bortles, sir?
He's not a big name player, and I believe a lot of other teams that have gone over there have not been big name teams. And I have not seen personally what the attendance numbers are, but in my opinion, if I was the NFL, do a 4 or 8 team league, start it over there, bring in whoever you can, and start a little playoff thing, see what the numbers are, and dabble it that way. If you're really serious about it.
Josh, 2018 they had the Seahawks, which are a big team, and the Raiders have a big fan base. They had the Titans and the Chargers. Chargers at least had Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen. They had the Super Bowl champion Eagles there, and then this year, obviously, the Estada Azteca was a big game for in Mexico City. But no, I just listen. The Bears have been there. I believe was it last year or the year before? Last year they had the Ravens. The Saints were there last year. The Vikings are kind of whatever. The Rams were there last year as well. I believe in the past 3 or 4 years, I believe that the Patriots were there. But they're doing their best to bring a different, quite a few different teams there.
Whatever. I'm still gonna hold firm that they should, if they're gonna try to capture that, then they should do something different.
What you pretty much want them to do, what the NFL is kind of doing with the AAF, Alliance of American Football, you would prefer that over in Europe instead of the States. Is that correct, Josh?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
The NFL, they're kind of partnering with the AAF, the Alliance of American Football, which will, I'm not sure if it starts 2019 or 2020. It
starts next year.
So it'll be pretty much right after the Super Bowl, so America still gets their fix of football. Yeah. You would rather see that all those teams be transferred to Europe in a sense.
In a sense.
Yes.
If you're going to try to capture that offense, that's what would make sense.
Pretty much what they need to do is build domes everywhere, have artificial turf, and be able to have a fast-paced a game where teams could score a bunch of points. Turf isn't an issue anywhere. That's what Europe, Mexico, anywhere else needs to do if they want NFL teams to come.
Let's hold on. We're done.
We're done. Point, Josh. I just want to say that I hate the fact that I hate the fact that it's like the NFL is just a typical U.S. male, right? It's, hey, you know what? We love football so much. Why do these other people like soccer? We're going to go into the countries that love soccer the most and shove football down their throat, even though our fans don't really like it and our players don't really like it. It makes no sense whatsoever.
All right, well, we're gonna move on to another subject, and it's a team that you talked about just a second ago that played over there, and it's the Oakland Raiders. Obviously, they're playing not so good of football, and at one point in time, after that game ended, Jordy Nelson said, "I need to get the F out of here." Then he retired. The Oakland Raiders. What is wrong with that team? Is it John Gruden? Is it the team in general, the players? Is it who's the owner or the general
Mark Davis or Reggie McKenzie?
Reggie McKenzie. Who is at fault?
For me,
I don't want to. I want to start it with, and Tom, I'll defer to you after this. The only thing I want to start it with is, it seems to me, I know the GM for the Raiders came out this past week and said how, it's not all John's fault. The Khalil Mack isn't John's fault. Put the onus on me. I respect that. All I will say about the bringing in of John Gruden is right now, year one of a 10-year deal, it seems like it's when they try to bring a high school coach into college and it doesn't work out, college coach into the NFL and it doesn't work out, it seems like, hey, old school guy into the new school, preaching those old ways. It is just not working out. He's not able to connect with his players. I messaged you guys, how one of the reporters there over the weekend said that there were multiple veterans walking out of the locker room over the weekend and purposely within earshot of the reporters and saying, I just need to get the fuck out of here to one another because it's such a disaster. I get that Gruden wants to rebuild and do things his own way, and it seems like right now it's Derek Carr and Derek Carr only that is safe there, because other than that, it is an absolute train wreck.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster right now in Oakland. I think it's kind of a little bit of everything. I think Gruden and McKenzie are kind of on different pages. For me personally, I feel like Gruden wants to kind of have that Bill Belichick role where he has absolute control of everything and hoping that McKenzie is gone eventually. It's been a disaster since day one. It's been a disaster this whole season. He's come out and said, I would have rather have had Derwin James than Colton Miller, coming out and saying that to the media. That's absolutely crazy. He should have taken Derwin James. He was the better player. Obviously, on my board, I think he completely reached in the draft. A lot of his picks didn't make sense. And now they're kind of just obviously tanking. None of those players are believing in the system right now.
Yeah.
And I pretty much think they're just trying to be good by the time they get to Vegas. And that's kind of a shame for those diehard Oakland Raider fans who are coming week in, week out, giving them a big-time home field advantage, yet the football product is still absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, the one good thing for them is that the Oakland Raiders are going to have 3 first-round picks. That is the benefit, and they could probably get a wide receiver, an offensive tackle, and probably either a linebacker or a defensive lineman because, again, they've traded Mack, they traded Cooper, they cut Bruce Irvin, they cut Obi Melifonwu at the beginning of the season. They got a lot of holes to fill, so it's going to be very interesting to see where they go.
They'll be, if they get a top 3 pick, which they probably will, there's probably a good chance that they'll get Nick Bosa, which is an excellent prize right there. He's one of the most pro-ready players in this NFL draft, one of the best overall players. I definitely think he's at least as good as his brother is right now. His brother hasn't been playing, but he's obviously been a pretty dominant force.
As he.
Yeah, so Nick hasn't been playing, but he'll be a lock for probably a top 2 or 3 pick in my eyes. But what the Raiders are doing now, they're probably going to have a first or second pick overall, which I think they have a good chance of getting Bosa. So that would help fix that pass rusher need. But having the 3 first-round picks, I believe they'll have 2 the following year as well.
Yeah.
That'll do a lot, hopefully, to help fix this franchise.
Yeah, but how much do you trust him, right? I mean, you have those picks, but you mentioned Josh. Late in the first round, they go with Colt Miller. Tom, you mentioned it. Not a great pick. There were definitely better players on, I think, in all of our boards than Colt Miller, but we'll see what they can do. And you go back as well. The Khalil Mack trade, it ends up being that the reason why he traded with the Bears is because the Bears, they were getting a better offer from other teams, but the Bears are going to be the worst team out there. Well, not playing out too well for you now, is it?
Yeah, not so good. It'll be very interesting to see where they go as well with Derek Carr if they try to trade him in the offseason.
He's bad.
I still like Derek Carr, but at the same time, if you move on from Derek Carr, if you are the Raiders, do you draft a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick, or would you rather have Bosa? I'd rather have Bosa because you look at some of these quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about that in a second. If you look at some of these quarterbacks, like there's going to be some teams that need quarterbacks, but at the same time, the quarterbacks may or may not be there. But we'll get to that in a little bit, because my next question to you guys is looking at that Monday Night Football game, this most recent one, which is the San Francisco 49ers versus the New York Football Giants. The Giants ended up winning this game, and you have undrafted free agent Nick Mullins, who again looks like a cartoon character with his helmet on. I don't know if you guys actually seen him, but he wears his helmet like Peyton Manning. It's like super tight on his head, just makes it all look squished. He looks like a cartoon character. It's really comical to me. But where would the 49ers be? And I got 2 questions. Where would the 49ers be if they still had a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo and if they had a healthy Jerick McKinnon? And then my other question to you guys is, if you're the New York Football Giants, instead of drafting running back Saquon Barkley, what if you drafted Sam Darnold at quarterback?
For me,
you want me to go first? Or you want to take it?
You go first, Tim.
I'll start with the 49ers. Listen, the 49ers, I do feel for them. They were kind of hosed out of the jump. We found out on our draft day about the running back that I'm blanking on right now. That you just mentioned.
McKinnon.
Thank you, Jerick McKinnon. Matt Breida has come out and done a fine job, I believe, but then also losing their quarterback. It's just a lose-lose, especially with how well George Kittle has come on this year. Being a real valuable asset. It's where would they be? Who knows? But I venture to say they would be pretty darn good. Still in a real tough division with the Rams, but I feel like they would definitely be competing with the Seahawks for the second best in that division, and potentially a wild card team. You have a franchise quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that that goes a long way. You mentioned what was the other team that you mentioned, Josh?
The New York Giants. Instead of drafting Saquon Barkley, what if they drafted Sam Darnold?
Yes. This is something that's near and dear to me, only because I got numerous arguments in preseason about how the Giants were taking Saquon. I said if the Giants were smart, they wouldn't. They would take one of the big-name quarterbacks. Guys, I know I am much higher on him than you are. I get that you still don't think he's the best quarterback there, either of these next 2 guys that I'm about to say. But if Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen were on the New York Giants right now, they would be, at minimum, a 500 football team. If Saquon wouldn't be there, but they could have filled the running back position in free agency. They could have addressed it in the draft. They could have done something else here. I don't understand what the Giants are doing, and honestly, I think they don't really understand what they're doing. Saquon is fantastic, but it's proven here. This Le'Veon Bell situation has proven that running backs are a dime a dozen. Le'Veon Bell, second round pick Tariq Cohen on the Bears, 5th round pick. I think Jordan Howard, 5th round pick. You see all these guys throughout the NFL who are later round. Yes, there's one or two here sprinkled within who are, the guy coming out of college, but that position is in a weird spot right now. And taking that higher draft capital, I just don't understand with how old and rough one Eli Manning has been.
For me with the Niners, if Jimmy G didn't get hurt, this team would probably be 4-5, somewhere around there. They've lost 2 times to the Arizona Cardinals this year, which is kind of embarrassing. The Cardinals are only 2-7 on the season. I don't think they'd be a playoff team this year, but they would be putting a better product on the field. And Tim, you were just talking about the Giants. I don't. If they picked Darnold there, I don't think that would have been the right decision. I was much higher on Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen. Let's say they had a Josh Rosen right now, that'd be pretty perfect. With the weapons they have there passing the football, and let's say in the second round if they drafted a Nick Chubb, like that'd be an ideal situation for this football team, having a Josh Rosen, Nick Chubb with your first 2 picks in the draft instead of getting a Saquon and a Willie Hernandez. I wish they did that. The football team would be a lot better. There's still that win last night kind of hurts them. There's still a chance they can get Justin Herbert with their first pick. He'll probably be the first quarterback off the board come draft time. But this team is in it's a rough patch if they do not get a quarterback in the draft this year, or if they don't trade or get a Teddy Bridgewater in free agency. That's really the only quarterback in free agency who will do anything in my eyes. But they kind of set themselves back getting Saquon Barkley. I do think he's a very special talent, but running back nowadays, 90% of it is probably scheme-based. Tim brought up all the low-round running backs who are viable in football, and most of them are in fantastic schemes with fantastic offensive-minded coaches, and right now I don't know if the Giants have that.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. I honestly, I like Saquon Barkley, but I think the Giants would be a lot further ahead right now. And like Tim said, maybe a 500 team if they had a Sam Darnold or a Josh Rosen. I don't care which quarterback it would have been. I think either one of them right now would be better. And you see Wayne Gallman. He's not the best running back, but he runs hard and he's actually doing okay out there. He could have went out and got a Carlos Hyde. I don't know. I feel like if you got Carlos Hyde in free agency and if you had a Sam Darnold, I feel like it would have been a no-brainer. But it is what it is. But that moves us to our next topic here. And there are teams that are QB needy. And we have the Giants, the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Redskins, the Jags, and I put the Bengals in there too, even though they have Andy Dalton. What do you guys think about those teams, or are there any other teams that kind of come to mind about maybe they need a quarterback, but maybe this is not the year to draft one because there may be not that many draft prospects at the QB position?
It's a bad time to need a quarterback. Last year, the year before, we saw close to 6 or 7 guys who are kind of proving that they're franchise quarterbacks, and now we're kind of getting that lull where the draft prospects aren't living up to expectations where a lot of people would hope they would be at. I'm nervous. If you need a quarterback right now, you are in trouble. We might see a Jameis Winston hit free agency, Josh. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of, it seems like they're unsure what they're going to do with him in the future. I brought up Teddy Bridgewater earlier. I still think that man can play football. If the NFL stopped hating on a Colin Kaepernick, I think he could be an okay bridge gap right there. But if you really need a franchise quarterback, I think there's possibly one in this year's draft, and I still have a bunch of questions.
And who's that?
Justin Herbert from Oregon.
Herbert. Tim?
This is an offer year for quarterback. We talked about it last year at length about how terrible that this quarterback class was going to be. It is not good at all. If you are teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, you are in hell right now. If you're in like a team like the New York Giants, you're in hell right now. I hope the Giants are smart enough with their high draft pick. If they draft a quarterback in the first round now, I'm going to laugh my ass off that they try to, the same way that they tried to say that the kid got busted speeding and through a construction site, cutting off the guy with the sign. What's that guy's name?
Kyle Luletta.
Yeah, trying to say that he was going to be the replacement. No, they're not. It's not a real quarterback. It's not a real replacement. So I hope that teams like that are smart enough. If it's me, I think that the 2019 NFL draft is going to be a game of chicken of who's going to let it go the latest. Like, are we going to see a quarterback, the first quarterback drafted outside of the top 10 this year? Probably not, just because of how the NFL works. But if it's me, there's no way in hell I'm taking any of these quarterbacks. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, I think the first quarterback that's going to be off the board will be Justin Herbert. He was one of my picks to win the Heisman this year. He's had a decent year, not a Heisman year. He's been out a couple games, been hurt a couple games. So we'll see where that goes. But the other quarterback is Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. And I think we've seen over and over again, Ohio State does not produce NFL quarterbacks. Will Grier is my wild card. I think he can be good, but a lot of times when you see a quarterback can't hack it on his original team and then transfers to a different school, they don't do so well in the NFL, minus Joe Flacco and Cam Newton. But I do like Will Grier, but he's in a pass-happy offense that has no defense. And they're just trying to pile points on.
I think the best kind of secret guy here is Drew Lock. I like Drew. I know he's had some issues on and off the field, but it's a big body, big arm quarterback. If I'm looking at all the quarterback prospects out there, hey, at least he's played in some big games against top, defensive competition. Not the best offense. I know he's struggled. I think last year we actually talked about a little bit about him tentatively coming out after his junior year. He did not. He went back to Missouri. But what about Drew Lock, guys? I mean, that's the guy. It kind of reminds me of just a big body. I think he's a left-hander as well. Has the opportunity to come out and maybe be a late steal for a team.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up, Tim, as another guy who will possibly get a first-round talk. Watched a little bit of him, not overly impressed. He does have a big arm, does play in the SEC, but hasn't been overly impressive. Yeah, he plays at Mizzou. They don't have a ton of talent there, but I'm just really not a big believer in any quarterback in this draft class.
He reminds me of a far less talented, the guy that I always say of. I've never been more wrong in my life, Patrick Mahomes. I see a lot of the same tendencies in him as I did in Patrick Mahomes. I know he's not as physically gifted. I know he hasn't had even as close as much success in college as Patrick Mahomes did there, but the upside is in similar abilities in one Drew Lock as it was in Patrick Mahomes.
If it was me, and if I was one of these QB-needy teams, I would have been wishing that Mason Rudolph was still at Oklahoma State and was going to come out this year. I think Mason Rudolph would beat everybody for the number one quarterback draft position out of all these guys. That's how bad I think this draft class is.
I got one thing about Drew Lock. Tim, you brought up he's played some big competition. Georgia, completion percentage, 47.9. Bama, 50. Kentucky was another good defense this year, 55.6. So he has struggled facing the SEC competition this year. This is his only year where he's been over a 60% completion mark. That's kind of been you need to be above a 60, especially with how football is played now. The NFL is kind of becoming more wide open, but we're seeing NFL quarterbacks routinely 75% completion percentage in a game. I think Drew Brees is close to 80 on the year, which is absolutely insane. If they're not able to hit that benchmark of 60 in college, I really don't want anything to do with you.
Unless your name is Lamar Jackson.
I had one more thing.
60. Actually, he's going to be starting soon for the Ravens, so props to that. I said he's going to be a wide receiver. Props to.
Talking about some quarterbacks that are not so good, I just wanted to touch on one game from this weekend: the Jets versus the Bills. The Bills started Matt Barkley, and the Jets started Josh McCown. How awful should you feel if you're one of those teams, and that's what you're putting out there? And also, the Bills have now cut Nathan Peterman.
It's absolutely horrendous.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
It's horrendous. That's terrible football product. Colin Kaepernick is just getting a bunch of ammunition of, look at all these guys who are starting games, and they're saying I'm not good enough. I'm just really happy that I'm not a Bills or a Jets fan. I don't think either of those teams found a real franchise quarterback in this draft. They're relying on backups right now because both those guys are injured. That's not what you want to see in the first year. Both of those teams are lacking weapons around their young quarterbacks, and that's one of the most important things to do when you have a young quarterback. Surround them with weapons. They haven't done that yet. They're going to have a chance to do that in the following year. Both of those teams have a ton of cap space, so they'll be able to sign any free agent wide receivers, but there really aren't.
Who's going to want to go there?
Yeah, no one, unless you're offering big-time money. Maybe a Lev Bell will go there. The big-name wide receiver free agency it's looking like Devin Funchess is probably the big-name guy. Jamison Crowder, maybe a Golden Tate. It's not pretty. I feel bad for both those young quarterbacks and fans of those franchises.
If it's me, I watched a part of that game, Josh. It was like, ghost of Bears QB past history. I once watched when who played the Bills, Josh? Why am I blanking on his name? I'm sorry. Who quarterbacked the Bills?
Matt Barkley.
Okay. Thank you, Matt Barkley. I once watched him in Seattle. I don't think he even completed a pass the whole time. We lost like 49-0. Just absolutely awful. I felt actually terrible for the Jets fans because it seemed like they were all going to just hang themselves right there in the stadium. With that said, I do think the Bills are a bit screwed, even though I do like Josh Allen just in Buffalo. Kind of has that attitude. You mentioned the free agents, but I think not building up Sam Darnold more. But if the Jets are smart, the Jets are going to offer one Le'Veon Bell, $40 million guaranteed, 4-year contract or 5-year contract, whatever you want. Pay the man. What do you have to lose? Like you said, Tom, put those weapons around your players. You're going to have the ability to draft. This is a terrible draft for quarterback. This is a fantastic draft for offensive linemen. Put some line in front of your players, bring in a couple wide receivers, draft one, bring in free agents, and sign Le'Veon Bell. That's the only way you are going to find success with one Sam Darnold.
Well, that's our second to last topic is Le'Veon Bell. He did not show up to sign his tender, or his franchise tag, I'm sorry, and he will not be playing football this season for any team, the Pittsburgh Steelers or any team, and will become a unrestricted or restricted free agent next year.
No, the Steelers will have the chance to franchise tag him again, which that would be for $25 million, so they're not going to do that. Or they can put the transition tag. If they don't do that, then he's unrestricted. So, me and Tom kind of talked about this before we started the show. Someone like Todd Gurley, right? Todd Gurley had $40 million guaranteed, 4-year deal. He got 45.
Okay, you look it up. I believe it was $57 million total, and I thought it was $40 million guaranteed. But Tim, you just said that he needed $40 million guaranteed, or should get $40 million guaranteed in a 4-year deal. That guy's going to be $45 million guaranteed. So Todd Gurley got $45 million guaranteed. So he's going to be 27 years old. Todd Gurley is 24 years old. So definitely an age gap there, but also, if you look at Le'Veon Bell, he is 1 year removed out of football, so he doesn't have that wear and tear on his body. But at the same time, this is also a guy that has had issues with drug tests, and he has been suspended games before. And also, in my opinion, what stops him again from saying, you know what, I don't want to play football, and then him sit out again. So, in my opinion, why would you pay somebody like this $40 million guaranteed? And then plus, on top of that, Tim, he better get more than $45 million guaranteed, because basically if you don't get more than $45 million guaranteed, it doesn't make any sense for you sitting out a whole year, in my opinion.
Listen, he can get more guaranteed if he takes a 3-year or 4-year. And I know that was the issue with the Steelers, is he's getting like $30 million guaranteed, but it was only for 3 years. So listen, at the end of the day, why are a team like the Jets going to do it? Because they're desperate. They're desperate. They have a young quarterback. They're going to draft more young players. They have a defense that they're bringing along, and they have a young quarterback that they need to find some sort of upside with him. So bring in a Le'Veon Bell. Listen, we've all gone back and forth how I have said, and when it first came out, I said how this could be detrimental to future players. Now, with the way that this is all played out, with Le'Veon Bell, I get that he is being a head for the players and how players should be behind him. I get that. Unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for all other running backs out there, with James Conner's surge here for the Steelers, it just kind of proved the point more that he wasn't worth that money. He was run into the ground. He was successful. They should, if in a moral world, that they should have paid him. This isn't about morals. This is about business. The football team trying to do everything they can to make the most and maximize their team. In a moral world, they should have paid him. They didn't, and you know what? It didn't really hurt him in the long run. This hurts Le'Veon Bell. This hurts the running back position as a whole, because now the market is set. Todd Gurley, David Johnson, the other big star running backs in the league, have gone and gotten their quote-unquote big contracts, and it's not what Le'Veon Bell wants. I get his receiving. I get he wants to be paid like a wide receiver as well. He's a top, I get all that, Tom. I already know that's where you're going. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They found someone younger and cheaper who can do it just as good, and it is what it is. The running back position has been defined, and Le'Veon Bell, in my opinion, has wasted away one of the years in his prime by trying to prove a point and make the position better for the whole entire league.
So, Tim, I'm going to ask you this because I think this is a very good question, but David Johnson is somebody very comparable to one Le'Veon Bell. David Johnson signed his extension, and it was a 3-year deal, $39 million, $31 million guaranteed. They are the same age. They play kind of similar. He doesn't have any off-the-field issues. What are your thoughts on his deal compared to what Le'Veon Bell should get?
Well, I think David Johnson you're going to see here, I don't know if it's going to be this offseason or if it's going to be next offseason, but, now that he's coming back and you're seeing here towards the season gets longer and he's getting back to full health, that, he's getting back to the David Johnson pre-injury, right? That's what we're seeing. I think that was more of a, hey, they're offering me a lot of guaranteed money up front, and I know it brings me into my 30s, but I need to get this guaranteed money while I can. Who knows what would have happened? What would have happened if it came out? Up until last week was his first real big week. He had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. It was his first real big week where he looked like the David Johnson of old. What would have happened? If he was coming into this season and now he's going into this next offseason looking for a big contract, and hey, 50% of the year this year you weren't anything for us. That's a big argument. He got his money guaranteed. I think it was a smart decision on his part. This where it comes down to is when is enough enough. Le'Veon Bell is a very special, odd situation where he's a premier running back, but he did so much for that team. He's on the field so often. He caught the ball so much. He did so much. I don't fault him for trying to get his money. But unfortunately, in this league, it's a prove it on the field, beyond the field. I know Tom does not agree with me, but I don't think I'm going to hold out and prove it to me. I'm going to sit out an entire year, and then I'm going to get paid. I don't think that's the route to go. And I feel like this has all ended extremely terribly for Le'Veon Bell. I don't think his management has done him any favors by it looks like on the outside looking in, not truly understanding the whole process and what's going on. I know we talked about it through in our group message of how they've gone back and forth with the fine print of the NFL contracts and what things were going to. I just don't think it is all played out the way that they wanted it to.
Tom, I'm going to ask your opinion on this.
I think it worked out perfectly for both sides. Look, the Steelers found a new bell cow running back, extremely cheap. They don't have to be paying a running back $15 million per year. Kind of in a cap or a sticky cap situation. Guess what? Now they get to roll over that close to $15 million per season next year, which will help them either re-sign players or get another player to help them move on to a possible championship run. And for Le'Veon Bell, look, he is missing out on nearly $15 million this season, but he'll be 100% healthy. Josh, I get the age situation, but I would be absolutely shocked if he does not get a David Johnson contract. I think he will get more than that. Even if he gets $30 million guaranteed, what happens if he played? And you could look at the Earl Thomas situation. He plays, he tears his Achilles, breaks a fibula, anything like that. What's he getting paid next year? Probably nothing.
He could have got $25 million guaranteed next year for 2 years.
Not if he played this year and got injured, he would not be getting anything near that.
Yep.
In my eyes, he would have got a small contract. Yeah, he would have got that $15 million this year, which is fantastic. But I think he's guaranteed at least $30 million next year. He sat out a season, but he's pocketing $15 extra million guaranteed on. If that's a bad case scenario, I think he will approach that $40 million guaranteed. I think it worked out for Lev Bell because the Steelers would have ran him into the ground. The Steelers are running James Conner into the ground right now. He's on pace for close to 400 total touches. If that happened again to Le'Veon Bell, that would have been close to 1,400 touches in 3 years, which is a lot for a running back. That is not good. Those guys get beat up every play. I think Le'Veon Bell made the right decision. He sat out a year, but he's going to gain a lot of money on top of what he would have got this year.
I think the problem here is Le'Veon Bell could have played the game. Le'Veon Bell could have played the game better, and he didn't. He could have reported after training camp, gone through the motions. Oh, hey, my back. Oh, hey, my hamstring.
And then he would have got that injury-prone player and wouldn't got a huge deal.
But he could have played the game, made his money. Listen, it's that 15. He could have played. There's always that risk when playing in the NFL. I get that.
And he wanted the guaranteed money, and he's gonna get that.
Yeah, but now he's going to have to go in, and he's not going to make that big deal plus the $15 million that he missed out on this year. He's not gonna recoup all of it. He's not. At the end of the day, he's not going to recoup all of the money. This was outside of just money, and I respect him for that. It wasn't just the money thing. It was a moral thing for him, and him trying to be the head, be an entrepreneur, and be the lead for the running back. I get that, but at the end of the day, he only hurt himself. He lost himself money, and he lost himself a year in his prime. It's just what it is.
If he played, though, and got hurt, he didn't lose himself money.
Yeah, correct. If he played and got hurt, I agree with that completely. You mentioned the Earl Thomas. We see that. Yes, if he ended up getting hurt, then yes, this is 100% the correct situation. But I don't know.
For me, the only way I see this as a win for Le'Veon Bell is if he goes out in free agency and gets $50 million guaranteed in 4 years, and the deal is like $55 or $60 million overall for 4 years. Mm-hmm. That is the only way. Hold on, the only way I see that as a win for him.
I agree, and he might. A team like the Jets might offer him that, but unfortunately for him, is he doesn't have a lot of competition. There's not a lot of teams with enough cap wiggle room to spend that much on running back. Obviously, we'll have to see how it all plays out at the end of the year with cuts and everything else, and where teams all sit. But at the end of the day, there's only going to be a couple teams, and I do think that teams are going to assess and look around the league and say, hey, look at all of these late picks who are going. Do we want to build our franchise around young players, or do we want to invest, $55 million with $45 to $50 million guaranteed on a 27-year-old running back.
In my opinion, I think that a team like the Jets would be better suited to use their money and spread it around on the offensive side of the ball with trying to get wide receivers in, maybe a Golden Tate, maybe a Funches, even though they're not the best wide receivers. But this draft class for wide receivers is very deep as well. But then again, we've seen the Jets go out and draft a lot of wide receivers and have not done a very good job with that.
Josh, would you rather, say you have the Jets money, $106 million in cap, would you rather pay a wide receiver like Sammy Watkins $16 million a year or a Le'Veon Bell $16 million a year? Really, Le'Veon Bell is worth more than Sammy Watkins in my eyes. I think in most people's eyes he should be viewed as a better overall player as a Sammy Watkins.
But the hard part in that is that Le'Veon Bell is going to want $50 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And somebody like Sammy Watkins is not going to guarantee that much money overall. What my dream scenario is that Le'Veon Bell goes out, tries to get all this guaranteed money, gets only $40 million guaranteed.
But that's a big payday.
And then the Steelers give James Conner a contract extension and more money. That is my dream scenario. So that's just me. One last topic. We got 10 minutes left. And this has to do with your Chicago Bears, Tim. Mitch Trubisky may have played the best football of his career this past Sunday. The Bears put a solid 3.5 quarters together. And then that last half of the fourth quarter was kind of a downfall for me. They started letting the Lions get back a little bit, even though the game was not in total jeopardy. But besides Jordan Howard, besides Tariq Cohen, besides Mitch Trubisky, I want to talk about Cody Parkey. He missed 4 kicks, 2 extra points, and 2 field goals. And out of those 4, he hit the upright every single time. Now, I'm a pretty good kicker, but I could not go out there and try to hit the upright 4 times in a row. Is there an issue? Should Cody Parkey be on this team?
So let me start by saying, as a Bears fan who always hates and shits on my own team, I will give credit where credit is due. First, I'll say there was a picture out there of, this is the definition of the Bears-Lions game, and it was the Bears offensive line. You only saw like 1 defensive tackle and 1 defensive end even in the picture, and Mitchell Trubisky had like a 5-yard lane in front of him, and then I believe it was Allen Robinson was running across the middle. There was a safety about 5 yards in front of him, and then the corner who was supposed to be on Allen Robinson was literally upside down. He was on his helmet with his legs in the air, so I don't know what happened there. But this was the first game as a Bears fan where I am cautiously optimistic. I'm not even optimistic yet. I will not be optimistic as a Bears fan until they beat the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. If they can find a way to beat the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, then I'll be full-fledged Bears have a chance here to win the division. You bring up Parkey. Listen, this is the definition of a fluke. This guy could not have done this. No kicker could do this if they tried. 4 kicks in a row off the uprights. I'm glad that it happened during a game that had no meaning because the Bears had dominated throughout. You mentioned it was 3.5 quarters. I mean, I was never concerned at all. It was just the Bears were obviously the better, more complete team, which is weird to say. Am I concerned? No, absolutely not. If Parkey goes out there and misses it, whatever. Who did we see who went out and missed? Mason Crosby, the Packers.
Against the Lions.
Or whatever. What's that?
It was against the Lions as well.
Yeah. Missed 5 kicks and 3 extra points and then 2 field goals. No, that one was in Detroit. No, listen, I'm really not concerned. Kickers go through those. If he goes out and misses 1 here against Minnesota on Sunday, yeah, I'll be concerned. But if he goes out there, makes all his extra points, and makes a field goal or 2, then there's no concern. He's been a decent kicker, and there's been a kicker problem kind of throughout the NFL. I'm not ready to. Some Bears fans are cut him. Shut up. You sound like an idiot. Kickers are weird. Kickers are awkward. He had a bad game. I'm willing to forget about it as long as he goes out there on Sunday and does what he's supposed to.
Tom, thoughts?
It has to be something that the Detroit Lions are doing. Maybe they're whispering something to the kicker before the game, getting in his head. But it's extremely odd that you have a Mason Crosby who's, he's had his ups and downs, but he's been pretty hot as the last few seasons. He has the worst game of his career against the Lions. Now you have Cody Parkey, who's been fabulous for the Bears. He comes out, has his worst game of his career against the Lions. Lions, they're doing something. Don't start kickers against them. That's crazy. Yeah, I was actually talking to my dad about this. He's like, you could probably pay him like $2 million and he probably couldn't do that again.
No, yeah, there's
like
no
four
way.
kicks in a row like that. Almost impossible. Just bad luck. I didn't watch the game. Maybe the wind was bad.
Well, it's in Chicago, and the ESPN 1000 was talking to a former Chicago Bears kicker, and he said that he used to go to Soldier Field and practice kicks there rather than practicing kicks at the training facility because it's in Soldier Field and the wind is crazy and all that stuff. And someone asked Cody Parkey if that's something that he would consider doing, and he said, "No, that's not for me." I thought that was a little odd, but that's all.
If the Bears cut him now, it'd be $9 million.
$9 million. Yeah.
Next year it'd be
Dead
$5
cap.
million. So they kind of paid him big time money. They need to keep him around the next 2 years.
I agree. Tim, anything else?
That's all I got, gentlemen.
What was your last view on Trubisky? Are you gonna finally turn around on him? You gonna be a believer or what?
No, listen, he's been average through 9 games, slightly above average. He is successful. My biggest downfall with Trubisky that I don't like, he cannot hit that down the sideline fade route. He can't do it. I know he said that he had one to Allen Robinson, but it was an underthrown ball. Robinson came back and made a good play. He consistently overthrows by 5 yards, underthrows that route. I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. I'm not sold on him yet. He needs to prove something to me.
I was actually watching this game quite a bit, and this actually reminded me a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs offense, like almost like a replica from the Chiefs this game for 3.5 quarters. It was pretty impressive.
They're doing good things right now.
A poor man's Chiefs offense.
Once Tim gets on the Mitch train, they're going to start sucking. So Tim, just stay off it. Don't be a believer if you want them to keep winning.
Hey, I told you, the only way I'm going to jump on listen, I'm obviously watching every weekend. I'm cheering for him every weekend. If he goes out there this week against the Minnesota defense that has been much better over the last 2-3 weeks, I know they were terrible to start, but much better the last couple of weeks. If he goes out there, puts up 300 yards and a couple touchdowns, I'll have a hard time not being on board. But they need to get to 10 wins if they're going to make the playoffs, and that starts here on Sunday.
All right, everybody, that is all we have for you this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed our random NFL talk that we had for you. Again, we are Pony Kick Sports. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pony Kick Sports, at Pony_Keg_Tom, and at Fight Talk Tim. You guys can always email us, ponykicksports@gmail.com. And until next time.